All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 6 o'clock. We'll bring our meeting to order. If you will, Ms. James, would you please call the roll of City Council?
Okay, the Honorable Mayor Pro Tem James Whitmore.
Comment.
Honorable Linda J. Davis.
Present.
Honorable Alex Heaves.
Absent.
Honorable Samantha Hudson.
Present.
Honorable Hattie Portis Jones.
Present.
Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
Present.
Thank you so much. At this time, we'll go to our first item.
First item is the Parks Master Plan presentation by Lost Design.
Yes, sir. Come on up, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to see you all again. We are very happy to be here this evening to present to you our final master plan recommendations for Fairburn's Park and Recreation Department, basically setting a vision for how the department will function to better serve the community going forward. I know the reports that you all received as part of your meeting packet had a lot of information, but tonight I would like to go over a couple of highlights of the various sections that you see here. And obviously, as we go through it, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me along the way.
Excuse me, can I get your name, please?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. I am Aaron St. Pierre with Los Design. Brief recap of the community profile. As you know, any good planning report kind of looks at the community, their composition, and where it is heading, so that planning for the future can accommodate that community demographic, that growth. Generally speaking, your community continues to grow. Over the last 10, 15 years, we've had approximately 25% growth, and we expect that to continue over the planning period over the next 10 years at a rate of about 13%. Your single largest population segment is kind of the youth and all that. That's almost 30% of your population. Seniors are another large segment as well, but that youth segment is extremely critical when we are doing assessments in terms of parks and recreation services. That rate of growth is outpacing the state overall, as well as our whole community here in Fulton County. And one of the beautiful things about that is that even though we're having that growth, we do have relatively low density of population compared to our surrounding communities. So there is room for our community to continue to grow and hopefully get those services to accommodate that growing population. Some general trends that we look at in terms of ethnicity, and also in the layer slide looking at income levels, really kind of helps create a picture of how people recreate. Generally speaking, we are predominantly an African American community, relatively low other minority groups. However, that Hispanic community, while we say that it's only 12.5%, that's actually relatively large compared to a lot of our surrounding communities, not only here in Fulton County, but also in the metropolitan Atlanta area in general. Our median household income is just over $65,000 a year. That is a market increase since the 2010 census. That rate of change is still slightly less than the rate of change associated with the state of Georgia and the U.S., but it is still something that needs to be brought into perspective for our planning purposes. I know you all had a presentation several months ago about our public engagement process, but we've made gained some ground on that, so I would like to recap some of that throughout the process. In beginning last year, we had 2 public input meetings, what we call our intercept meetings. One was at the Fairburn Youth Center, where we had about 30 participants. We also had another one back this past June where we presented the community with our initial plan recommendations, and again, that was about another 30 participants that came out to as well. We also had, I got to enjoy 2 large community events, one at the Fairburn Fall Festival, as well as the annual tree lighting, where we had different stations set up to solicit that engagement from the community. And we had about 200 people between those 2 events come to our booth and talk to us about their visions for parks and recreation here in Fairburn. Concurrent with all of that, we also had an online platform. Not everybody likes to come up and talk to Aaron about their needs. So we have an online platform for people who couldn't come out to the meetings or maybe a little shy. That involved an online survey. We have mapping exercise, and overall during the time span that was active, we had 284 completed survey responses when that closed out by the end of January of this year. But we had a lot more traffic than that on the site. So the community was aware of the planning process, and quite frankly, we had very good participation, Could have been better, yes, but still, I think that we got what we needed in terms of representation of what the community needs would be for Fairburn. Out of that process, a couple of things that we learned. Generally speaking, there is community support to enhance our park and recreation services here for the city. There's a couple of statistics that you see on the side over there. We like to ask people about, like, okay, well, we have a department, we have services. Do you go somewhere else? And if so, why is that? Most of the community, a good bit of the community said that they said 76% on that survey said that they go outside the city limits to use other providers. Now, whether that's another city, a county facility, or a private facility, the reasons why they did that was because the quality and the diversity of facilities that are provided elsewhere are better than what we're doing here. Same thing, there may be some programs that they would like to participate in that we don't currently offer here for whatever reason that may be. When we surveyed our residents and basically asked them what it is that you're looking to get out of Parks and Recreation, this was a really interesting figure for us. Over half of the top 25 preferred recreation opportunities, okay, whether that's just being able to get your laps in an indoor walking track or participate in leagues or anything like that, over half of that is served through indoor recreation facilities, such as recreation centers, arts centers, youth centers, senior centers, things that we kind of have but we don't really have or we're missing entirely. Some of the other needs that they indicated were for the what we call kind of passive recreation. So being able to go out to just a general green space, take your kids out to the playgrounds, have those birthday parties or family reunions at the pavilions and walking on trails. We are meeting some of those needs, but there was still a need for us indicated by the community to enhance that. One of the other things that came out that was very strong for the community was the need for water recreation. And you all saw this slide previously, but we are saying that the water recreation needs are partially being met by our Duncan Park pool. And that's just because of the nature of the pool and how it's designed. It can only accommodate so much specific programming outside of that. Some of the other things, when we got to the end in June and we came back out to the community, we put these recommendations in front of them. We asked them specifically about their priorities. What is out of this entire list of things that we can do, what are the priorities for you as a community? And they specifically indicated that expansion and improvements at Duncan Park was a top tier priority, looking at developing an indoor recreation center, generally expanding our portfolio of parks across the city to get geographically to better serve our communities was something. And also just as those facilities come online, be able to expand our programming to be able to hit everybody's needs. One of the next steps that we did was our facility assessments and level of service analysis. This is kind of critical. So when we are looking at these things as park planners and park system planners, we're looking at benchmarks from outside of ourselves. A typical park and recreation agency, okay, of our size usually has about 22 parks and 571 acres, all right? Populations about our size, again, another ratio, another metric is that there's one park for every almost 1,200 residents. So based on that, as a city of Fairburn for our size, we should be managing approximately 14 parks, which we are short on. Comparatively speaking, also, we look at other communities in our surrounding areas, people who are nationally recognized award winners in terms of park and recreation systems, and also one in Virginia that we were asked to look at. And you can kind of see the differences between here. So here in Fairburn, we have about 6 parks that are actively used, actively maintained, actively programmed, and growing, with 137 acres. But you look at our peers that we're benchmarking against, we are still very short compared to those people. There's also a disparity in terms of what we're doing in terms of the diversity of the types of facilities that these communities are doing as well. We do go through an analysis, and I won't go through this whole chart, but basically looking at benchmarks in terms of, for a community of our size, how many baseball fields on a national standard relative to our size should we be having? Is it 5? Is it 6? Do we have 5 or 6, or are we short, or do we have more? This whole thing is a list of facilities, looking at those standards and benchmarking against them to determine whether or not we are meeting demands for a typical agency or whether or not we're exceeding or a little bit short. Generally speaking, across this entire category, if you were to go through it, we are short on most everything for our current population level as well as that delta will increase. We'll be even more short as our population continues to grow over the next 10 years. When we look at our park distribution, every single park that we have here in Fairburn is based on a certain classification. Those have service area radii that are placed on them, and so we map those out. So the areas in blue, you can see the parks that are currently labeled here, kind of in the area around the City Hall. The areas in blue are those service area radii where those parks are serving the citizens. And the areas that are not covered in blue are areas where we are not getting adequate coverage. More specifically, the areas that you see in pink, those are residential areas based on your current zoning where we are not hitting the service areas for those residential areas. So, how do we fix this? Well, as you'll see in the report, we go through a lengthy process of proposing new park facilities. This first map is a map that shows us our combined facilities. So all in all, I believe there are 8 or 9 new park facilities that we're recommending of different types. And this is what the coverage area looks like. We're generally covering the entire city through this dispersion. More specifically, when you're looking at the different park classifications, our mini parks are more located here on the center, kind of like the old historic downtown area and some of the adjacent residential areas between here and the landmark area. These mini parks are typically walk-up facilities. They're a green space. There may be something like a pavilion, a playground. Maybe there's a small walking trail loop with some outdoor exercise equipment. But these are very, very small, low-impact facilities in order to hit the immediate needs of the community within a couple of blocks. On the other end of the spectrum, we have community parks. So we are recommending the city has a large tract of land on the south side of the city where there's an opportunity for us to develop a new community park. What I like to say is this is essentially a southern version of Duncan Park in order to add that huge portfolio of facilities and programs to the southern part of the community on land that we currently own in order to really fill in those coverage gaps. There's also an opportunity for us to consider a special use park. So the special use parks are very specific designated program uses. The one that we're proposing adding is the idea of using the new GMC campus that the city is transitioning over to from an administrative standpoint and utilizing some of the facilities and green space out there for some of our programming. The core of this system is the neighborhood parks. So the neighborhood parks are the ones that have a very balanced blend of indoor and outdoor programming. So these would have your walking trails, your restrooms, your playgrounds. It might have a splash pad. It may have a community building, not a full-on recreation center, but something where the community could come in and meet for family reunions, HOA meetings, things along those lines. There may be an introduction of some athletic facilities, whether those are courts or fields, but it's not quite to the scale of Duncan Park, for example. But we're distributing 4 of those across the community, and those are going to be hitting strategic areas in order to get the most bang for our buck in terms of serving the current community need, as well as anticipating the growth for the future. In conjunction with our planning efforts, we were asked to look at a proposed trail network. How do we integrate the community in a way that is non-vehicular mode? So we're recommending a combination of both roadside and cross-country pedestrian corridors. Key things are making sure that we're connecting existing and these proposed park properties that we have. We also want to make sure that we're reaching out. We're right outside of Atlanta. A lot of our neighbors are part of the Airtropolis planning group. They're all doing the, I'm sorry, what's it called? Shaping the Million Mile? The Model Mile, thank you. They're going through that in order to create a connection for the whole Atlanta metro area. So we want to make sure that we have those terminal connections, not only going back towards Atlanta, but also providing an opportunity for our neighbors to the west and north and south of us as well to be able to tie in through Fairburn as well. And this is a general plan of how that might work. Again, just a general rough plan. A lot of these routes just generally show how we might be able to connect. They will have to be ground-proofed in order to get into the level of detail that's needed for us to go in as a city and develop plans to actually implement and develop those initial trail segments. So I've given you an overview of our proposals in terms of new parks. I do want to hit on our existing parks because these are our babies that are currently serving our community. I would like to start first with Duncan Park. In looking at the plan, Duncan Park has a lot of opportunity for expansion in order to accommodate additional facilities and programming to support the overall community. And a lot of our focus in the planning recommendations are focused on Duncan Park because she is right here. She is so great, and we can do so much more with her. So this is a comprehensive list of what we're recommending on here. Some of the highlights include looking at developing that indoor recreation center with the opportunity for some sort of an aquatics facility. Maybe that's an indoor natatorium. Maybe that's in the family leisure aquatics. Really expanding on the trails, expanding on our courts facilities, developing a new courts complex dedicated to pickleball and tennis in order to meet the needs, as well as expanding dog park, or developing a dog park, expanding our playground, and developing an outdoor skate rink. That's a new one for me. I haven't run into a park system yet where that got asked for, but that was a big ask from our community here. This is an overview of what that might look like. If you're familiar with Duncan Park, most of the areas that are shown with the aerial map are the existing, and then everything that we've drawn is the new, including the new multi-use fields complex to the southwest, that recreation center to the south, the various court complexes and pavilions and trails and disc golf network are all incorporated with that. When we talk about the recreation center, we did go through a programming study to essentially kind of show you all the city based what a recreation center might look like for you all in order to meet your typical program needs. And this was based on a lot of feedback that not only we got from the Parks and Recreation Department, but also the community as well. So this is a generic floor plan that shows how that might work. It includes an indoor gymnasium. There is an opportunity, should we want to do that, to do an indoor track facility, as well as a natatorium with indoor pool and splash pad. In your packet, you'll see a couple of images such as this that kind of show you what the potential character of that building might look like and how it fits within the park.
Wow.
Feel free to download these and use these as your background on your computer desktops. This particular view is of what we are recommending as the community room. So this is kind of like your high-end rental facility where you would have special events, weddings, family gatherings, complete with a full catering kitchen and prime views out to the park. Apologies, the slides are moving slow. And this shot kind of captures what could potentially happen in terms of the natatorium. Large storefronts, so we get lots of that passive daylight, so there's an integration between the exterior of the building with the interior. In terms of the other parks, at Mario B. Avery, the goal here is to really keep it as a very local mini park in terms of creating an open community green space. So we have some opportunities to really kind of enhance it by enhancing our paved circulation, our ADA connectivity, try to incorporate some passive shaded seating areas. Maybe there's a structural playground element or sculptural playground element. And what we mean by that is that playgrounds come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And what we're envisioning here is not necessarily your traditional playground that you would see at Duncan or Cora B. Robinson. This might be more of an art exhibit that can be interacted with in the playful environment for kids and all that. One of the other big recommendations here is to incorporate some sort of a bioswale or rain garden. We have some stormwater runoff, and by developing this, we think we can mitigate some of the impacts that are happening on that property right now. At Cora Robinson, as you all know, she's relatively new. So I don't have a lot of feedback to give on that outside of basically there is some opportunities on adjacent parcels for us to engage with community partners and look at expanding the property and what that might look like, or at the very least expand access to the property. So if we can do that while also enhancing site security and patrols, very, very minor ADA access issues that we need to address, some site, and maybe we go ahead and put in some picnic tables in terms of the missing site furniture. But generally speaking, Cora B. Robinson needs a very light touch going forward. In terms of the youth center, this is something that Chapin and I and the rest of the Parks and Recreation staff really kind of juggled a good bit. We know for a fact that as a recommendation, we would love to recommend that we acquire the off-street parking area across the street from the youth center and expand that and develop that into a proper parking lot to handle the user demand. But we also see an opportunity, if that recreation center comes online at Duncan Park, we see an opportunity to convert this to a new multimodal, multifunctional program space, something that could be used for events, with caterers, multi-purpose rooms to support programming. Maybe there might be a staff office and storage. So the programming that's currently there can still be held there, but we can also convert it so it's not a sole purpose youth facility and really expand the program offerings that are there. And obviously make sure our signage looks like the rest of the city facilities. At the Frankie Arnold stage, again, it's a world-class quality facility. Not a lot of recommendations there outside of just generally convert the lawn to artificial turf in order to make that thing last a little bit longer and reduce your maintenance and operations. But generally speaking, if we were to take and develop that special use facility at the GMC campus, some of our larger events might be able to be held there, like some of our summer concert series, because right now, as you all know, we're a little bit crowded at Frankie Arnold. I'd like to talk with you all a little bit about the programming assessment. I'm still amazed, my planning team is still amazed at how much this department is currently offering to its citizens with relatively limited resources in terms of staff, funding, and facilities. It's absolutely astonishing, and you can see the list here. The one thing that stands out is that currently, for people my age, and most of the people up on the booth, there's not a lot of programs that are offered for that age segment of 20 to 60 years, those adults, those early adult years. And so we want to be able to hit that because that was a need that was identified by the community. This is a general list from our survey of the top 25 programs. It is very varied, but again, if you remember that slide that I showed you earlier, a lot of these top 25 preferred programs, over 50% of them, can only be accommodated through an indoor facility. Okay. So, in terms of opportunities, what are the things that we can do as these facilities come online? Well, obviously, develop and expand on our adult programming through leagues, health, fitness, and nature and outdoor. For our young children, can we do preschool programs? Can we do introductory sports? What about something non-athletic in terms of STEM or social programs? For our seniors, essentially, if we have the space and the staff, we can potentially expand our hours and extend into weekends. There's an opportunity for us through these facilities to develop outdoor and nature programming because that is another part of Parks and Recreation. Expand on our camps. Maybe we can do some really cool new special events that we're not currently able to do. And most importantly, or not most importantly, but relatively important, one of the things that we're missing the mark on is adaptive or inclusive youth programs for not only youth, but adults and seniors. So making sure that those facilities can handle those needs. In terms of our staffing assessment, a couple of stats here. Long story short, currently the way it's defined is an FTE. It's a full-time equivalent. So you have full-time staff who are working 40 to 80 hours a week, right? And then there's seasonal or part-time staff. A typical agency usually has somewhere, for someone like us, usually has somewhere around 11 and a half full-time equivalents for every 10,000 residents. So that means that we should be somewhere around, typically around 22, 23 full-time staff or equivalents and all that. We're currently at 18 full-time equivalents. We're really, truly only 8.5 full-time. So bottom line right now, we think in order to actually meet our current needs, we need to be around 19.5 full-time equivalents. That would indicate a staffing increase to meet the immediate need. And then going forward, what does that mean as we expand our facilities, expand our program offerings? So when we're going forward, some of the things that we'll need to continue to evaluate are these contributing factors. So we have more parkland, more parks that need to be mowed, painted, all the fun things. We have indoor facilities that now have to have full-time staff in terms of front desk, custodial, all these things. And then as we expand our program offerings, because we have the facilities, we need to either engage with partners or we have to at least have in-house staff to help facilitate those partnerships as we go forward. So this is a list of the recommended levels that we see that might be needed in order to hit our full-time goal. Now, obviously, this is not a light switch proposal. It is a tiered, phased implementation. So the chart that you see on your right shows how that staffing might be broken up over the next 10 years. It's basically follows kind of our capital improvement plan, which we'll be talking about here in a moment, But essentially, right now, there's an immediate need to increase staffing levels to hit our current demands, but as these new facilities and programs come online, we definitely need to increase staffing in order to keep up with it. I apologize, it's not supposed to say draft capital improvements plan, but it can be. But this is our CIP for your Parks and Recreation Department. Generally speaking, we in a planning scenario, we break it up into 3 tiers. Tier 1 is your low-hanging fruit. It has a very low financial impact. It's stuff that you probably already have in your budget this year and that you can easily absorb in the next year's budget. And it's basically addressing ADA, safety, deferred maintenance, and maybe some future planning initiatives. Typically, Tier 2 is where you start getting into some new facility development, and maybe those are a little bit easier to swallow. And then Tier 3 is the long-range stuff. You've got to go through all these funding mechanisms in order to get the big bone at the end of the Tier 3 when we're in years 5 to 10 of the planning initiative. But for you all, if you guys remember, I said that we went back to the community and we asked them about that implementation strategy, that phasing and all that. So your Tier 1 isn't what I would call a typical Tier 1 for most agencies, but here it is. Your existing park improvements, we definitely want to hit those at Mario B. Avery, Cora Robinson. Duncan Park, your immediate Tier 1 priority would be to get that recreation center with the natatorium developed, as well as get that football complex expansion, your current football complex, but also look at kind of building onto that to develop your new multi-purpose fields facility. Frankie Arnold, the improvements that we're recommending there are very easy, can be handled as well as the youth center. And then as part of this, we're recommending that we develop neighborhood park number 1, which is on the southwest edge of the city, for a new park to be developed as part of that initial phase. Our estimates say that this is approximately $67 million and change to do this, with the vast majority of that funding coming from the expansions of the facilities at Duncan Park. When we look a little bit ahead into the future in terms of that capital improvement plan, again, there's another phase of Mario B. Avery that would be implemented. There's a second phase of the Duncan Park expansion and renovations that would be implemented, as well as the second phase of the youth center improvements that would be done. Tier 2 is where we start adding on some of these new facilities into our matrix of services. A couple of the mini parks, the rest of the neighborhood parks. Phase 1 of what I call the community park number 1, which is that southern copy, for lack of a better term, of Duncan, where we would want to get the baseball complex and the trail system at least started, and then go ahead and develop that special use park number 1. So your Tier 2, years 3 to 5, would be approximately just under $40 million. Tier 3 is where we kind of wrap everything up, developing that last mini park that will help fill in that final service area gap based on your demographic projections, but really closing out the final aspect of community park, where we have a second recreation center, develop that multi-purpose fields complex, develop the playgrounds, trails, pavilions, dog park, splash pad, and we project that to be somewhere around $95 million to do that. All told, when you look at the full matrix, I believe my eyes aren't as good at 40, but I believe we're somewhere over $200 million worth of renovations and improvements to existing parks, as well as developing new facilities. And that's straight capital. That does not consider your staffing costs associated with that expansion. So that is my summary of the recommendations that are currently in the report. So with that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer it.
Council, anybody?
I'm just excited.
Go ahead, Ms. Jason. Go ahead, you got it.
Okay, I'm just excited. Like, we're making really big moves, even with just looking at this system. Of course, I know there's a heavy price tag on it, but I would just like to know if, to get there, it's phased, right? I think what I also consider is, what are the opportunities for Fairburn to acquire land, which I don't know a whole lot about that, but I would think would be a good way for us to make a great investment on having the land to put that facility on there. I came from a park system, Chicago Park District. That's a large park system. And so to see that is just amazing. Like, I've actually been dreaming about having something like that for a long time. So I want to do whatever we can do or whatever we need to do to make it happen, to get the revenue to do it if I got to go door to door. Ask for donations. I think that's a good way to go to really steer our community in a direction of meeting needs. Park systems are not just about recreations. It does connect citizens to larger resources as well. I envision seeing this park system in having more engagement with county services, in a place where the county could more than likely take some type of residents into providing direct services and meeting the needs of our community. So I don't have a whole lot of questions because I met with Chapin. Chapin heard my heart. She took the notes, and you guys just aligned with some of the things that I wanted to see. So I'm just excited. That's all. I don't have anything else to ask. I want to learn more about the process. I want to learn more about what my role and responsibility will be as a councilwoman in understanding this process and making sure that the community understands the process, more so the financial ramifications of that, because it always boils down to the tax dollar. So I know that our community wants it. They want sit-down restaurants. They want fresh food at grocery stores and all of those things. We prioritize them, we can get it. But I think where the disconnect comes in sometimes is understanding how the tax dollar expands. And for our city, we are heavily tax reliant. And, you know, I would like to see our economic development expand, that our revenue generating opportunities expand, so we can have a robust initiatives to fund things like this park and other things in the future. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Before I go to another councilman, Mr. Phillips. Mr. Phillips, I'm sorry, I can't hit. Mr. Phillips, you want to have, with your extensive background in parks and recreation, you might want to give your spiel to this.
Well, let me start by saying I share Ms. Hudson's excitement. I think this is a tremendous plan. I wanted to provide maybe a little additional input as it relates to, it's a big number investment, and clearly that's something we'd have to crawl, walk, run. But I think what is often lost in the conversation around parks, when we focus on programming and the value that parks add to our families, our communities, the programming, is that parks also have an economic value as well. When you look at communities, and on the National Recreation and Parks Association website, I think the most recent economic study was 2022. Parks can actually enhance economic value in your community. So I just wanted to offer that, and we can have a more robust discussion about how that works. So that investment does have a return in creating better property values, in attracting certain businesses to your community. They look for certain site selection keys when businesses are locating, and one of them is a robust park system. Because typically that leads to higher home values, and so there is a consideration, in addition to all the wonderful work, and I agree with Aaron, that Chapin and their team do an amazing job with the resources they have today. I can only imagine what they will do if we can provide them some of the vision in this plan. But there is an economic value to this. It's not just spending money on a park. I see Councilman Whitmore nodding his head because he and I have had some in-depth conversations about this as well. So I just wanted to offer that, Mayor, and it's an opportunity for us to take this roadmap for the next 10 years, and with your leadership, figure out where we make those investments.
Mr. Whitmore?
Thank you, Mayor. How you doing, sir?
Good to see you again, sir.
Yeah, well, I can say that just starting out with just sitting with you and your staff just to brainstorm and throw things out there. And of course, I think I stayed way beyond my time. But it was good because Chapin and I, along with her staff, we've been talking about this for some years now. Not only that, not just Chapin and I, but the community as a whole. This is going back many, 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 many years. Even when we finally put the pool and splash pad out there were still talks back then about expanding the park. To actually be at this stage right now is a wonderful thing. Your presentation is outstanding, and of course, you know, everybody look at dollars, and I understand that. But there's opportunities out there, and we have to hit the benchmark to find those opportunities to help us to get to those numbers, and it can be done. I like what you said, tier 1, 2, and 3 stages, just as we do our T-SPLOS.
Sure.
So we understand that concept, and it's just a matter of putting a plan together and working towards it and executing. I think that the community as a whole would welcome this type of investment from this elected body and the city staff, and we just need to see how in depth they're willing to invest in this.
Yes, sir.
But we really appreciate that, and I tell you, it's just mind-blowing, but it can be done. The one question I would have for our city administrator, and I don't have the answer to this, and I hate asking the question unless I already know what the answer is, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Even with some of the future buildings for this master park plan, and we can still actually have a commercial niche put in there as well, I believe.
That is a possibility. We have now a template to move us forward for the next several years. I don't want to put Aaron on the spot either, but I'm sure he may know of some examples where those two elements have been kind of morphed into a single project to help on the return on investment and to develop some of the commercial interests we have. But Aaron, I'll defer to you.
Yes, sir. So there are, full disclosure, I haven't done one in Georgia yet. But my team members in my other offices in my firm have done these before. One of the more frequent things I can give you is in our recommendations, I called out Community Park South, okay, that almost 300-acre piece of property. It's in a portion of your city that is currently zoned for commercial growth, and all that is a larger parcel than we really need to meet the needs for that. So there are several examples of basically you outparcel portions of the property for private development, commercial development. And one of the reason why I specify that property is because there is a facility in the master plan there for that indoor track, which is something that would lead to sports tourism. There is not something like that within a 4-hour drive for us. So if you were to develop that property and outparcel it for commercial development, whether that is for additional hotels or restaurant space, that helps fuel the smart market, because when these people come into town to Fairburn and they're to participate in our venues and our programs, where are they going to stay? Where are they going to eat? So be able to have something right there, very easy to access from the facility that they're going to be using for the entire weekend, it's a win-win deal and all that. And I would recommend that the city go through a market feasibility study to determine how much and what diversity of commercial properties would be best suited to support the recreation demands for the community for that sports tourism aspect. But yes, sir, it can be done.
And Mayor
Thank you
Pro
for
Tem,
that.
what I would add to that, I'm sorry, is the facility that is described in the plan that Aaron just referenced, I would refer to as a regional facility, which is commonplace with major parks and recreation facilities, meaning it draws patrons from outside the city limits from a regional perspective. And that lends itself to those types of commercial developments. Well, as all of you are aware, there's another major regional facility probably 15, 20 minutes away. I say that only to indicate that the opportunities may even be more enhanced to add those commercial elements to service our own development plans as it relates to parks and recreation, and to tap into that regional growth that is happening with parks and recreation facilities in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may also add that I believe we have a great opportunity to reach out to our corporate partners here within the city. We have some major hitters, and we just need to figure out how that ask would be, but our corporate partners need to invest more in this city. And this would be a great way of investing and taking care of the city as a whole for all of our citizens with the park system. So I really enjoyed the presentation, and I'm looking forward to some more in-depth discussions and a way to find a way to make this happen. Thank you.
Smallwood.
Thank you for your presentation. I remember sitting with you, so it's good to see it come to fruition. But I had a quick question about those like cities that you shared with us, but they had more parks in place. any of them grow? Like you just said, how from 2010 to now, we grew at a rapid rate. So any of those like cities, did they experience that type of growth? Because maybe we can glean some of the strategies they used to get up to speed with the amount of people that they had and facilitate those number of parks. Do we have any strategies from those cities that we learned to kind of help along with this process?
So I don't have the numbers readily at hand, Mr. Smallwood, but, so I'm not 100% sure about the rate of growth that those communities experienced over the same period of time. What I can say is that their planning initiatives, the reason why that they are nationally recognized, that they went through this process 20 years ago to develop that roadmap and be able to get implementation, meet their current needs, and also project for the future. So I know that as part of this planning process, this is not a one and done deal. This is something that as a community, we should continue to revisit every 5 to 10 years to kind of take the temperature on how we're progressing. Communities evolve, communities change. So maybe the needs change, the distribution changes. So it is an evolving process, but starting to think ahead is the key to any success in any type of public service. And I believe that this plan helps set the stage for just that.
Okay. And one last one. And so even in this plan, so also, like you said, thinking ahead. So in this plan were things thought of that maybe that's not here right now, but that you know in the industry that's coming, so that we can also incorporate some of that in the plan as well, so that when we get this, then we're not looking like, oh, we need to now incorporate this. What part of the process did we have with that?
Sure, yeah, so again, it kind of depends on where you're from. You know, Ms. Hudson comes from the Chicago Parks District, might know this better than most of us, is that, especially here in the South, when we think about parks and recreation, we are thinking strictly of athletic programming. And by expanding programming to hit all key aspects of recreation programming in terms of social wellness, mental wellness, education, those are the things that we talked about as a team that need to get incorporated, but a lot of that programming has to do with those indoor facilities that we talked about in Chapin. Did you have anything
I was
else?
gonna say, it's two facilities that were listed that are fairly new. Pickleball is the new craze. You know, as we're going forward, that's one of the things that, hey, let's jump on it now. The plan involves adding pickleball courts as well as adding tennis courts, so keeping both. And one of the things that we've witnessed, and it came through some of our surveys, was skating and outdoor skating. This was, like Aaron was saying, he hadn't heard a lot of people say they want an outdoor skating rink. But if you go to Duncan Park on any morning or any afternoon, you'll see someone utilizing our tennis courts as a skating rink, or maybe our outdoor basketball court. So rollerblading is coming back in. So jumping on top of that trend, where we got a lot of feedback that we did not think we were going to get. I didn't think that we were going to get a lot of people putting money in the bucket. We did an exercise where you put money in the bucket what you would like to spend your dollars on. Yeah. Outdoor skating rink was one of those. Wow. So I think we're on top of the trend where we'll have something that other cities around us don't have. And it'll bring everyone together in different aspects.
One last one.
Yes, sir, you still
One
got
last one. And you may not know the answer, but I know it's new and it's coming. What role, anything with AI? You know, I don't know. Like I said, because the youth are here, they know probably better than us, but what role is AI playing in the parks with the future?
And also esports. So esports has just become a Georgia high school sport. So offering some of those indoor capabilities to have a space geared towards someone that doesn't want to go outside and play your traditional sports, but they want to battle inside on the computer. Yeah. So having those opportunities and expanding that need, we've had STEM programs and STEAM programs for a while, but having access and direct access to learn coding, having direct access to a computer lab that was outlined in that indoor facility was a computer lab space as well as an esports space. So we can start jumping on those type of trends and learning those technology careers that we can start incorporating with our youth.
One of the things that I'm sure the state school system recognize in adding esports as a high school sport is it has become a legitimate career opportunity and path. You know, some of us who maybe aren't into video games, as we would say, may not be aware that it's been monetized. And there are people who earn a really valid living either programming for esports, participating in the career aspects of esports, and so it's an expanding, growing area that goes beyond just our teenagers in the room playing video games. It is now a legitimate way for people to create a career path and to create other opportunities in our community.
Okay, I'll come to Ms. Davis, then I'll come back to Mr. Whitmore.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank you, Aaron, and your company, Lost Design.
Close enough. Yes, ma'am. At least you didn't say lose design. That's a sore spot.
And of course, Chapin, in your leadership, in pulling all of this together and the way we pulled it together. It was systematic, community involvement, elected officials' involvement. Everybody had an opportunity to talk about what their vision will be for our parks and recreation. So I don't really have any questions because we're not going to deal with the money aspect of it, but we're going to start on like a footprint. And I think this is an excellent start for us to see the whole picture, you know, and like you said, Aaron, that there, you know, maybe a couple of years down the road, we can tweak it here or tweak it there, depending on what's going on. So I just thank you all for your time and commitment, and I know the citizens of Fairburn would be looking forward to this in the next 15, 20 years, maybe for completion, because it does take that amount of time to complete something like this. So just thank you so much for your leadership in this.
Okay, Mr. Whitmore, and then I'll finish it.
Just one more question for you. Can you touch on disc golf? I know that there's national tournaments and there's a lot of money that's being generated based on disc golf, but can you just expound on your knowledge about the disc golf, please?
Yes, sir. So disc golf is, I'm not a disc golf player, but I could tell you through the years of working on projects similar to this, disc golf is a very underrepresented but yet very large and powerful community. These folks really don't get their due in terms of dedicated facilities. So what they do is they develop ad hoc meetup weekends where they just swarm a disc golf course and they have 100 participants, and Parks and Recreation officials kind of go nuts and all that. But through that grassroots organization in terms of disc golf and all that, I cannot tell you how many meetings I've gone to where they've shown up. Out of the 30 people that would be at that meeting, 5 or 8 of them are disc golf people, and they say, you have no idea. If we just had the right type of facility, we could bring in and organize tournaments on our own without asking a lot of the park staff or the community. We can organize, 300 to 400 participant weekends that would travel out of state if we had the right type of facility and all that. Disc golf is a very low cost facility in terms of recreation value. A typical 18-hole disc golf course, depending on how you do it in the land, is anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 to get a lot of people, boots on the ground, engaged in a healthy activity that gets them out in nature. So to that, I always say, I like to remind people, don't discount disc golf. It doesn't cost a lot of money to have it, let alone do it the right way so that it becomes an attractant for your community. And it is a good example of if you build it, they will come.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I too want to commend you on the report. Very comprehensive and some great ideas that were included in there. And I want to personally thank the residents of Fairburn for participating in the master plan development and discussion about it, because it's truly your voice that will guide us in what we can discuss doing. I wanted to ask you, follow up on the question that was asked by Mayor Pro Tem Whitmore, and that is commercial partnership with it. When I had my interview with you, I shared with you medical facilities, the Y, MCA, and fitness centers partnering with the city or being adjacent to a particular park area. We still have a gap in terms of medical care in this area, and the land where you described, undeveloped, and the commercialization of that, a medical facility or and medical partnership, I think would be ideal. And because that's such a huge need, and there is just major discussion about that going on now, I would like us to, try to explore that opportunity and what that looks like. And I saw this facility in Noonan, is where I saw it. I had never thought about that as an idea. So that's a commercial opportunity adjacent, to a park or recreation facility for us to consider. I did not hear you say very much about water features in a park. And I've always heard that that is a major factor, just really significant in terms of attracting persons to the park, how they enjoy the park, and just the whole mental aspect of that. So could you just talk a little bit about that as a possibility for some of the other parks outside of Duncan Park?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Jones. And I assume when we're talking about that, are you referring to kind of like natural water features or recreation, like, the splash pad pools? And I just want to make sure I'm answering it correctly.
All of the above.
All the above.
Yes, I'm asking you for suggestions or ideas, right? And of course, land will dictate, cost will dictate, but something as simple as just a running fountain, and all the way to a splash pad or swimming pool in another part of the city.
Sure. Thank you for clarifying. So one of the key tenets of Parks and Recreation service delivery, as defined by the National Parks and Recreation Association, is stewardship. Okay, so that means stewardship of our land and our natural resources. And as we all know, water is as much, if not one of the most important resources that we want to preserve and protect. That also makes it, if we do it correctly, it also makes it a valuable asset in terms of recreation. And recreation not only in terms of being able to go out and fish, kayak, and things along, but also educational programming as well to teach people about water resources. Depending on how much of a steward you would like to be, there are ways, and I've done them before, where building upon that outdoor natural preservation, when you get into your water facilities, your active recreation, your splash pads, your pools and all that, there is ways to manage the water resources in a very responsible, sustainable way, so that we can minimize our environmental impacts as well as lower our maintenance costs, and be able to use that as an opportunity to educate the public and expand on those resources. You guys do have in your properties, and Ms. Hudson, I didn't note this earlier, but in those proposed park sites, I want to say all but a handful are on existing city-owned property. So there are a couple of the properties that there's a couple of facilities that we're recommending in the area. There's not a city-owned property there, so we would have to look at that acquisition. But the reason I bring that up, Ms. Boris-Jones, is because of those facilities that you currently have, those properties that you currently have, Duncan being one of them, which, as we all know, has a wonderful pond resource out there, which the master plan allows us to be able to build on that to enhance the pond on the site in order to create some beauty and give additional access. That southern community site has a large wetland swath on the back end of the property, which, number one, should be preserved and protected for various reasons, but also that's when we talk about in the recommendations that you'll see in the report about nature and outdoor programming. Our nature center, I'm recommending that there for outdoor water education, water resource management, as well as vegetation education and things along those lines. Water is an integral part of our lives every single day. So whether or not we can enjoy it to observe it and appreciate it or splash in it, Either way, I believe that this plan covers all of those bases for you all.
I think, I have other questions, but I will forego. Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, yeah, I'm just, my comments is that basically, first of all, thank you for that awesome presentation, and basically in this case, expanding the vision that we talked about, actually not just this administration, actually my administration, Ms. Hurst, as well as Mayor Hanna, have started back then trying to actually expand recreation in arenas and ways that nobody ever deemed possible. I want to thank our residents because, again, as far as I'm concerned, we started kicking the ball down the road in terms as a home run when we started that referendum that passed in 2011. A lot of you guys remember that when we bought Duncan Park and basically expanded it to the degree. I want to also thank the Eric Berry Foundation, who played a major role as well with that. But ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about now is taking what we took from home plate to first base, taking it all the way back around the home plate. Again, it won't be overnight, and you've heard the different council members and basically cover almost every arena of the project. The questions that I was going to ask, including, believe it or not, Ms. Jones stole my question about water features. But again, this is, I think this is just a blessing. Again, I want to thank you so much because, again, when it's all said and done, you guys hear me, Mr. Whitmore periodically makes, jokes about a statement I made that make a mark in our city that'll be talked about for decades. This will eventually be talked about for decades when we're long gone and from here. And so again, I want to thank Ms. Scott and your team because with the services that we do here, that we do right now currently, I hear a lot of residents and seniors talk about they're in just total disbelief. I want to thank Mr. Berry Will that plays a major role. He's behind the scene, but we've got some people working with the city of Fairburn in recreation that's going to help us basically get to second base with this project. So with that being said, thank you so much for all the presentation. You got anything you want to say, Ms. Scott?
I just want to say thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us for funding this project. It's a big step for us to do this 10-year plan. And then I want to also thank our steering committee. I know some may be here just to kind of, they dedicated a lot of hours and time, even to the point one time we were standing outside and I had to tell them I have to go home. It was 9 o'clock at night. We have to get back, but I just want to thank the residents for really buying into this parks master plan and giving feedback and constant and consistent feedback. And what you really see in this plan is a reflection of what the residents have said. There's a lot of things that I would probably want, but they would come and say, hey, we don't necessarily want that, which was great dialogue to start and understanding the benefits of recreation and how it adds to a community. So I just want to say thank you.
Who do you have here that was there?
If you can stand up for me.
Yeah, please stand up.
What's their names?
We have Miss Maya.
Mention
I'm sorry, what was it?
who they are.
Here.
We have Miss Maya. And then we have Mr. Anderson. And then we have Mr. Bruce.
Right.
Who are heavenly. They're just not on our steering committee. I thank them for stepping up. And there's some members that weren't able to make it, but all three of them volunteer in different capacities within our recreation program, and they dedicate a lot of hours to us, even outside of just the Parks Master Plan, but just on a daily basis. So thank you.
Awesome.
Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll start at 7 o'clock in about 3 minutes.
department has to adhere to and provide documentation of that. So it's a 3-year cycle, and at the end of that 3 years, there's a team of 2 command staff or chiefs from other agencies that come and spend 2 days at the host agency, reviewing all 140 of those standards to make sure they're in compliance. After that period, they then submit a written report that goes to me to review and approve. Then I send it to 2 different committees consisting of chiefs and command staff who review it and approve it and then send it back to me. And then I finally contact the host agency to tell them that they have passed their certification. So my distinct pleasure here tonight to formally announce that the plaque and the certification to the chief and the city of Fairburn for their accomplishment in meeting those standards for state certification for the next 3 years.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
The next item is presentation of supervisory leadership development program certificates.
Before we start, could you do something for me? Could you please check? It feels like the heater's on actually back here.
No,
I thought it was just, could you just double check that for me, please?
it went from hot, cold.
Oh, okay.
They turned the heat on.
Yes, okay.
That's what I told him.
I said, man, I know I ain't having menopause moments.
It's a lot of people, Mayor.
Okay. Oh.
No, that's the heat.
Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. We are super excited to acknowledge all of our directors and managers that participated in the Georgia Municipal Association Supervisory Leadership Development Program. I can tell you that we did fast track this program. Classes for them started in January, and they just completed in June. And so on behalf of the city administrator, just want to say thank you, because in the FY24 budget, you all did approve funding for us to be able to put 30 of our employees through this program. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Terrell Jacobs, and he can give you a little bit more insight.
All right. Thank you, Jamila. Just want to share a couple of things with you in regards to the program. We put this program together probably about 5 years ago. Actually, the first one was the city of South Fulton that undertook this program, and it is a very grueling program that takes them through several months of intense, lecturing, and sometimes we do projects and things of that nature. But here's the thing that we're challenged with across the state of Georgia. About 25% of our workforce, some of that institutional knowledge, can retire by 2029. So we have not done a great job of developing our talent, developing the next leaders for our municipal workforce. So we have over 40,000 municipal employees with the state of Georgia. So as you can imagine, that's 10,000 folks. So we got to do a better job. So I commend the city of Fairburn for taking this initiative, because we got to develop folks to be able to take on different roles and responsibilities. And you're just not born with good leadership skills and management skills. So this was an opportunity for them to share their aspects of what they're hopefully learned, and hopefully bring them back to their workplace so that hopefully they can be in tune with being greater leaders and managers for the city of Fairburn. Once again, thank y'all for doing this. It's been a great opportunity. I hope that the students really had a great experience through this process, because we want to hopefully have value added and good services to them so that they can hopefully utilize everything that they've been taught. So without further ado, we got Miss Chris over here. She's gonna.
Can I do this if you don't mind? I'm going to ask members of council, would you stand here so you can shake the hand? Because this is a great moment for the city of Fairburn and their management and leadership team. So if you could, can we all just come down front?
Yeah, that's great.
was so cold in here, didn't it?
So first up is Ms. Jada Berry. Is she here tonight? No. Jada? Mr. John Martin?
Next is the best Parks and Recreation Director in the state of Georgia, Ms. Chapin Scott. And the police chief of the newly certified Fairburn Police Department, Chief Anthony Bazidlo.
Miss Felicia Jones? Mr. Willie Smith?
Captain Krishna Craig.
You trying to get on past.
This next one's a little bittersweet, but it's a good thing. Mr. Brian Stevens.
Fire Marshal Christopher Campbell? Mr. Tom Banks? Miss Gail Higgs?
Miss Tyra Little.
Miss Nikisha Baker? Miss Sylvia Abernathy.
Mr. Lester Thompson. Talisha Champagne.
Miss Takara Burgess.
Mr. Dana Smith.
Chief Cornelius Robinson. Miss Denise Brookins.
Miss Dina Ray.
Lieutenant Edgar DeSantos.
Mr. Charles Johnson. Our Deputy Fire Chief, Mr. Graylin Sapp. Another one of our fire command staff, Mr. Miguel Rabeau.
Mr. John Gilbert.
Okay, John.
Though he is not here this evening, we have one for our Deputy Police Chief, Chief Eddie Eisworth. And also from the Fairburn Police Department, Captain Amber Graham. And another member of our finance team, Miss Jenny Montoya. And just very briefly, I just wanted to take a moment. Ms. Chris and I are blessed to be able to work with this tremendous group of leaders. It makes our jobs a whole lot easier. They're talented, they're dedicated, they work really, really hard. I just consider it a blessing to be able to work with them.
I was just going to say, as mayor and on behalf of the members of council, we're all proud of our management team. Please give these people a hand again. And before we conclude, I'd like Mr. Phillips to explain exactly what the course in detail, because it's a little more. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The course is about 16 courses that they have to take over that period of time. As you heard Ms. Jamila say, we really crunched it in. So they had about 6 hours each time that they showed up. So it was more instructions, lectures, projects, things of that nature. We got this course book from International City County Managers Association, Effective Leadership and Supervising. And we've been, once again, doing this for about 5 years. So what typically happens is the city contacts us and they say that they want to put their folks through this training program. And we specifically contract with that city for how many people that they want to send. We usually, at the top end, about 35 to 40 people. I think you had close to 30 in this class in that regard. So once again, it's something that is vastly needed to try to help them, because everybody's not always born with great leadership skills and management skills. And we had a lot of good interaction. Each one of the instructors made it so that they could actually participate and it give us perspective. We didn't talk about Tony or Jamila. Mayor and council. But I will say this, we always invoke the Las Vegas rule, right? So what we talk about then is what we talk about then. But it was all in the effort to gain insight and help each other grow, and that's what it's all about. You're always going to be a life learner. Remember that. That's what it's all about. You never get through with learning, okay? I commend y'all for what y'all have done, all right?
I just want to add one thing. I had the good fortune to be in the inaugural class for this 5 years ago. So I went through this particular supervisory leadership program myself, so I know how valuable it is. It helped me as a leader. And it was instructed by Terrell Jacobs and Kay Love primarily, both of whom have been doing this for decades, over 30 years. And so the facilitators are folks who have been hands-on in city government for decades. And so you learn from folks and learn from each other, from people who have really done it, not just taught it. And so it's a real value. I'm so excited that they've all had a chance to go through it now, and we'll be looking for the next cohort of folks that we can send through this to make Fairburn that much better.
What I'd like to do, if you don't mind, I'd like to make sure we get a group picture. I'm gonna ask council to stand up there, come back to the seats and stand up top, so they can get a great group picture of these managers, and however way you want to make it happen.
Yeah. Councilwoman Hudson, come on in. Are you in the center?
Yeah, I'm centered, so.
No, what? But I'm looking at her though.
Oh.
Come on back.
Okay, everybody on 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you.
Good to see you. Yes.
I'm gonna do like a good back.
That one.
Service ain't over, but I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna put my
Finger up.
And tiptoe.
See y'all later.
First of all, what you doing with that shirt on?
Mike, that's supposed to say Fairburn. They don't have one for you? You finna get several shirts.
What I'd like to do next, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask our newly elected state senator, Rashad Kemp, would you please come up, sir, and give us greetings and wait for the chair to cool out for a second, okay? Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, sir.
Good. It's hard to follow a celebration of so many people. I don't know. Well, good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank y'all so much for giving me the opportunity just to speak. My name is Rashawn Kemp, and I am the state senator-elect for Senate District 38. Fairburn is in Senate District 38. It goes all the way from Sandy Springs down here south to Palmetto. And so I will be sworn in January when the legislature comes back in. I'm going to be replacing retiring State Senator Horaceena Tate, who has been in the seat for 25 years. So this is a big change, but very excited to fill her place and get to work on behalf of our community. I'm very passionate about making sure that we try to equalize things as it relates to this district and what we see so often in Metro Atlanta. I live in the city of South Fulton, so very passionate about making sure that the resources and opportunities that exist in the northern part of the county exist in the southern part of the county. So you can count me as an advocate for those types of things, such as healthcare, education by way of my profession, as well as ensuring that we ensure our right to vote. And that's one thing I just want to make sure I stress. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but just in case there's anybody that does not know, our Secretary of State has put forth a website where folks can go and cancel somebody's voter registration. They can challenge their voter registrations. So please, as you are engaging community, make sure that folks know to not only register and make sure that they're registered when they move, but they check their registration because some games are very likely to be played as it relates to our voter status. So please go to the Secretariat's website and make sure that you are currently still registered to vote.
Would you repeat that one more time? Okay, because I want to make sure the people that are listening at home hear that. That's important.
Absolutely. So please go to, it's NVP, My Voter page. It's the Secretary of State's website to check your voter registration status. There is a new website that has been released where folks can challenge someone's voter registration status just by simply knowing their name and their date of birth. And so we want to make sure that our names do not end up on those lists to where your status can be challenged when you go to vote. There are folks that are going to try any which way they can to determine the outcome of the election that is not the result of the people. So please make sure you're going to check your voter registration status. And also, if anybody wants to reach out to me, my email address is rashaun4georgia@gmail.com, RASHAUN. For Georgia, all spelled out at gmail.com, and I'll give you my cell phone number as well, 614-778-9160. While I do not get sworn in until January, the work begins prior to that so that we make sure that we are doing what we can to advocate for our community. So look forward to working with you all and meeting all of the members of council and, of course, engaging on this important work down at the State House. Yes, sir. Yeah, phone number is 614-778-9160.
And your name again, please, sir?
Rashawn Kemp.
Rashawn Kemp.
Yeah, we can't forget the last name. No relation. All right, no relation. Yeah, all right. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have, we're at the adoption of the city council agenda. Members of council, you have the printed agenda before you. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. I don't have any public comments, so at this point, I'm going to the approval of the city council minutes. Members of council, you have the city council minutes for the meeting that commenced on July the 22nd, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Catch who made the motion? I couldn't catch it. Okay.
Did.
Ms. Davis made the motion. Who made the second?
I did.
Ms. Waters Jones. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
The first item on the agenda is a public hearing. It's a text amendment automobile rental and sales. Staff recommends the public hearing be continued to allow additional time for the applicant to provide updated information.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We have an application for a text amendment. Since the initial application, our zoning attorney has received some additional information that's under review. So we're requesting that the public hearing be open and continued to allow staff sufficient time to review the data provided by the property owner.
Okay, so in this case, I need to take a motion to open the public hearing, correct? Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is open. And so, Mr. James, just so I follow proper protocol, because you're going to continue, if people speak today or later?
I need to ask you, was it advertised as a
It was.
public hearing for people to speak?
It was advertised as a public
And I
hearing.
would ask if anybody wants
Is
to
there,
speak on
okay.
it. And
Is there
then-
anyone here that wish to speak
Is that not correct?
in favor of this item? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, yes, we're just trying to get our business license.
Introduce, please.
Introduce yourself, ma'am, your name.
I'm sorry, my name's Jamie Palmer, and I'm representing Speed Enterprise at 337 Bay Street, Fairburn, Georgia, 30213. The reason the owner couldn't be here is he's sick and in the hospital. We're trying to have a rental car and U-Haul business there, and we had some complications, you know, because we had letting somebody rent a bay and they were down there practicing without a license, or having business without a license. But we have taken care of that, and we were just waiting on the loophole that she's found that we could be zoned in.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who wish to speak in favor of this item? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone here that wish to speak in opposition of this item? Seeing none. In this case, just because it's continued, I do not close the public hearing, correct? I do not close it. Okay, so in this case, we can go to the next item? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Need a motion to continue it.
Okay, can I entertain a motion to continue this item?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
To continue the public hearing, that's what.
Continue the public hearing.
So
Motion's
moved.
been made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. We'll go to,
The next item is the facility use agreement, Kids with Goals Football Club, okay. Request mayor and council approval of the facility use agreement with the city of Fairburn and Kids with Goals Football Club to provide youth soccer programming.
Greetings, Mayor. Oh, did you go, Mayor?
go ahead, ma'am.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is our facility usage agreement. This organization worked with us in the spring, but the location has changed, so I just want to make sure that is noted. During the spring, they utilized our football field, our grass football field. Due to our very large football program, we have moved them to our lower multi-purpose baseball field. So this is the same contract that was approved in the spring.
Okay. Mr. Council, you have the item that's been read. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Smallwood. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been properly second. Any questions or comments by council?
Just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
With now, and this is in precaution, that we are now self-insured, are there any particular measures, Mr. Phillips, or our city attorney, that we need to take to make sure that liability is covered with this? You know, typically when we had our liability insurance, we know that we're covered, but now that we're self-insured, I just want to understand, should we be looking particular at any other foreseeable issues that may rise and protecting ourselves from them?
So built within this contract, you'll see a portion that mentions liability insurance.
Okay.
The organization is required to hold $1 million worth of liability insurance, with Duncan Parkin listed as the certificate holder.
Thank you.
Any other members of council got a question? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
The next item is the senior homestead exemption. It is a request for mayor and council approval of an ordinance to amend Chapter 53, Article 2, Division 2 of the Code of Ordinances of Fairburn, Georgia, so as to increase the homestead exemption for citizens 70 years of age and over to cap the value of the homestead for taxing purposes for eligible citizens, to repeal conflicting ordinances.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Yes,
Good
sir.
evening.
We are bringing forth an ordinance tonight to increase our senior homestead exemption. As you know, we discussed this last week in our budget workshops. This is a proposal to increase the current exemption from $25,000 to $30,000 for seniors who are 70 years old and older. Last year, this council approved in December that assessments would be frozen when you turn the age of 70. We are proposing this year that we also help those out that are seniors and mostly on fixed incomes, that we increase that exemption from $25,000 to $30,000. It is my assessment that this will come at a nominal decrease in revenue for the city, and I just think it's the right thing to do.
Okay. Members of council, you've heard the item read by the city clerk. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and actually seconded by Mr. Whitmore. Is there any question or comment by council?
Yes, I have.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
Yes. I really appreciate the fact that you came back to us with that, the $5,000 increase. I know in talking to numerous senior citizens, you know, they was really hoping that we could afford to have a homestead exemption at the level of Fulton County. But, you know, I explained to them that, you know, we, one, are not structured that way, and two, we can't afford it at that level, but that we have made major strides with the increase from the, was it 10?
Yes, ma'am.
To 25, and now 30 in 1 year, an additional 5 in 1 year. So that's a major accomplishment for this legislative body. And I also assured them that it is something that we will continue to monitor because we've heard them loud and clear relative to the homestead exemption. But thank you so much for the initiative that you've taken to help us move the needle a little further. So thank you so much.
Ms. Davis?
Yes. I too would like to thank our administration and our finance director for doing this extra step. It really goes to show where your heart is in reference to our citizens as well. And you know where my heart always is. So appreciated. Thank you so much.
Any other members of council?
Sir, thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, again, to echo what my fellow colleagues already said, it is important to listen to the citizens, and we have our seniors, and they mean the world to us. So to be able to work with the administration, yourself and the finance department, and bring it before this council to make it happen is commendable. I thank you, and I'm sure our citizens thank you as well.
Ms. Hudson, did you have something?
I'm done.
Mr. Mayor, if
Yes,
I
sir,
could
go
for a
ahead.
moment. This is Mr. Stevens' last council meeting with us. I wanted to take a moment to publicly thank him. He has been a tremendous asset to us in the time that he's been here. One of the signs of a leader is that you leave things better than you found them. And he has certainly done that in spades. I regret to see him go. Would have tried everything I could to keep him here, but I want what's best for him and his family. He's the best person to know that, so I'm happy for him. Our entire team is happy for him. And I just wanted to publicly say thank you, Brian Stephens. You've really done us well in the time that you've been here.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yes, sir.
And council, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity that Fairburn gave me about 17, 18 months ago. It was a hard decision, but it was the right decision for my family. We have 2 kids in college now, and coming from the education system and a chance to go back and have a little bit more flexibility and family time with my wife meant the world to me. So I would say this, it is nothing that this council, the mayor, the city administration or staff or anyone has done to me. Fairman's a great place to work. I'm gonna be honest, that's the part that made it hard, was to leave people that I built lifelong friendships with. So if anybody's listening out there, I can tell you this is a great job, a great place to work. It was just a unique circumstance for me. But the colleagues that I have, I was telling one of the council members, my mom watches every meeting, and she said, I've never seen a council just compliment staff so much. So again, I hope I'm leaving it better than I found it. I will be accessible as needed. Tomorrow is my last day, but I am greatly appreciated and I am greatly impressed by Fairburn. So with that, good day.
The next item.
Mayor, could you carry the motion, please?
Oh, all in,
He ready to go.
Yep.
Ready to go.
Don't bust me out. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
The next item is the appointments to the Ethics Board. This composition of the Ethics Board is 7 residents who shall have been a resident of the city of Fairburn for at least 1 year immediately preceding the date of his or her appointment and shall remain a resident of the city. No person shall serve on the board if he or she within the preceding 1 year period has any interest in any contract, transition, or official city action of the city. The last appointments to the Ethics Board ended in 2023. The recommendation is for Mayor and Council to appoint the following members to the board. Jaworski Horn, appointed by Mayor Mario Avery, term to expire December 2025. Rodney Anderson, appointed by Mayor Pro Tem James Whitmore, term to expire 2027. Vera Racklin, appointed by Councilmember Linda J. Davis, term to expire, December 31st, 2027. All of them expire December 21st of their year. Thomas Cochran, appointed by Councilmember Alex Heath, term to expire December 31st, 2025. Tony Smith, appointed by Councilmember Hattie Portis Jones, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Reverend Danita Jones, appointed by Councilmember Ulysses Smallwood, term to expire December 31st, 2025. Myla Osum, appointed by Councilmember Samantha Hudson, term to expire December 31st, 2027.
Members of council, you've heard the item read. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Yes, ma'am. Is there
Second.
Motion has been made. It's second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, you have reports? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I just had one brief update, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if you would allow. The Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police recertification that you saw this evening was inclusive of a comprehensive assessment of our standard operating procedures for the police department to ensure that they were legally aligned with state law and that they were aligned, Chief, help me if I get this right, with best practice. And so I wanted to take a moment, one, to acknowledge Ms. Hudson, who has mentioned standard operating procedures a number of times. I want her to know that we heard her, right? So if you would check your email, you have a link, all of you, to the entirety of the 23 chapters of the standard operating procedures of the Fairburn Police Department. And as of this evening, they have been added to the city's website under the Fairburn Police Department tab. They are now accessible to all of our citizens and anyone who would like to take a look. It's the entire SOPs. They have been certified, as you saw this evening, and they are now fully transparent and accessible to any and everyone who would like to look at them.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Jamila.
And so our next item is council comments. Okay, I'll start off, actually, in this case, Mr. Smallwood. Would you go ahead, sir?
I don't have any comments this evening. Just thank everyone for coming.
Yes, sir, thank you. Ms. Davis?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I know I shared this with Mr. Phillips. I want to make it a record. I so appreciate us investing in our employees. You can't expect someone to be a leader if you have not invested in them to train them and for them to go through different classes and training to become a leader. And that just does my heart so, so full to see the number of employees that completed that training. And I noticed the difference with employees who had to present their budget. In their heart, they knew their budget. They said it with confidence, even if it wasn't going to be approved. They did not hesitate or anything, and I noticed the difference. And in particular one, and I'm not going to name because I shared this with that particular employee, I told them I noticed the difference, and just keep up the good work. And I'm just so excited about what we do here in the city, not only for our employees, but also our citizens, because without either one of them, we would not be here. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, administration, for allowing me to share that.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hudson?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to start off by saying thank you to Mayor Avery for pushing forward the Ethics Board. This wasn't a win for Ms. Hudson, this was a win for us all in Fairburn. I also want to thank the finance manager and Tony Phillips and Jamila Chris for working closely with me in the one-on-one meetings, and as well as to my peer, Councilman Smallwood, for helping me out with a little cash on the training side. He hit me real good there. I also want to thank the citizens of Fairburn, everyone who came out to the back to school event and our partnering restaurant, the dining experience. We had over 110 attendees and we distributed 200 backpacks. I am excited about the community engagement that's coming forward. Join me and look out for Civic in the City. Civic in the City is now being birthed to be a public engagement tool to garner your feedback as it relates to items that you may see on the agenda that you may not understand. I will host this once a month to kind of get some feedback, and as well as help you navigate through the simple tools of how to send in a public comment, the things that you need to do in terms of open records. This is us coming together to provide information to counteract disinformation. Me and Tony, Mr. Phillips had talked about this before, that a lot of things that are happening is because of disinformation. And so I am so excited for that opportunity, as well as it is official. As of August 12th, I am now a member of the cohort for ARC Regional Leadership Institute. And that's not just a win for me, that's a win for Fairburn, because I want to work to bring regional support to our city and help us understand where we are on the map in terms of the region. A lot of times we can get locked in on the small level and not see the bigger picture. So this will help me see the bigger picture and fight better for us all. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Congratulations. Ms. Portis-Jones.
Yes, I too say congratulations, Councilwoman Hudson.
Thank you.
That is yet another avenue of training for you that you can share with us as well as the city. Training has always been very important to the city of Fairburn. At the national level, the state level, and the local level. And it was exhibited tonight with the awards, the certificate that the supervisors had. At the end of the day, it helps us all. It helps us all to be better leaders. It helps us to learn from our colleagues in our neighborhood, regionally, statewide, and nationally. Because you can guarantee that somebody has gone through whatever it is that we're dealing with right now, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's why training is so important to the city, and that's why this legislative body for at least 50 years, if not more, has invested in training both of mayor and council as well as our the staff. Again, congratulations to all of the staff participating in that program. It was quite impressive. And thank you, Mr. Phillips and Ms. Chris, for one, encouraging them to participate and providing the resources, both financially and staff-wise, to allow them to do that. So congratulations again. And I also want to just say thank you again for the additional $5,000 for the homestead exemption. Every little bit helps. And of course, you know, our seniors ask for more, but they are appreciative of every penny that they get. So we will continue to work on doing more as resources will allow. And then lastly, again, just thank you, Mrs. Stevens, for the initiative and leadership that you brought to the city. You did a lot in the 17, 18 months that you were here. And you've elevated us to a whole nother level and set a standard for the next person to come in. At all times, it is our goal to continuing to move higher than where we are. So thank you again, and good luck. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Best for last. Go ahead.
I'm going to start out with our finance director, Mrs. Stevens. Again, you will be missed, but you set the bar high, and I'm sure whoever comes in to stand in your shoes will do just fine with the examples that you left behind. So thank you for your service here to the city of Fairburn. Number two, just like to say, we just had the National Night Out last week. We had close to 300, I believe, backpacks that was given to the community. And I challenge you, Chief, unofficially out there in the parking lot, and I'll challenge you publicly now. Next year, it should be 500. So, and again, I mentioned to you a couple of businesses that I know that I'm sure will chip in to help with that endeavor. So let's talk about that. Also, the congratulations on your GACP certification. I know it's important. I know you look forward to that every 3 years. You've been here a long time, and you go through it every 3 years. You have been going through it every 3 years. So just to know that we're continuing that trend of getting that certification is important for you as a police chief, your agency, and of course for the city of Fairburn. And with that, one last thing. I would just like to remind all of our citizens out there, you heard from our future state rep as of January of next year, Mr. Rashawn Kemp. And he put out a plea to each and every one of you, please, and I'm going to implore you, please, go and check your voter registration. We do not want to be caught left behind and not exercising our rights to vote for who we feel we want to represent us in the state or in the national. So please, take advantage of that and go to that website. Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely, thank you. And I'll just basically echo what several members have just mentioned. Mr. Stevens, thank you so much, sir. You've been a blessing beyond belief, having worked with several finance directors in both terms as mayor. That's a capacity that will make or break your administration. And so actually, when I met with Dick Anderson upon his arrival, he came, I was the first city he visited, and I told him 2 positions, if you don't get the right person, you're gonna sink. And I said, as the finance director and the city attorney, I said, if you mess up in either category, you'll find out soon. and so again, I want to just say thank you, sir, because again, you've been a blessing. My wife actually is out at the financial services convention right now, and she wanted to actually come here and thank you because she deals with what you're dealing with. She said, congratulations to you. I want to also thank another young lady that's, in this case, got a great opportunity, in Ms. Little, our procurement manager that's going to the city of Roswell. And the city administrator will tell you in my first meeting, probably the first 1 or 2 meetings when he first got here, I came to our meeting with our managers, and many of them will attest that I told them that, I said, guys, if you're doing what I think we can do as a government after the first 2 years, I said, I'm gonna have a hard time holding on to half of you in this room. I don't know if you guys remember that. And I said, I'm going to lose half of you because the competition is going to recognize the efficiency and the level of professionalism that we're going to operate, and that's exactly what's happening. Of course, I've got chewed out by someone saying, man, Mayor, you're opening the door for people to leave. No, I'm opening the door for success to be seen worldwide. And so, again, congratulations to every department head. I want to just say again, too, I want to thank Mr. Phillips and Ms. Chris. Thank you again for what we just witnessed today. One of the things that when I came in, you and I talked about having been a graduate of CPM, and so and I indicated then, because of my military service in this case, you can't expect what you don't inspect. And so I said, as Rick said, I said we talked about our managers going through a bona fide certified program whereby they can actually learn what it means to be a team player and what it means to manage at the next level. One of the things that I'm very happy about that we've been able to do, and we did it during our first administration, Ms. Brenda James went through that, and that program then, and that was, it is very valuable when other people can work with each other for years.
That's your
How's it going, Mayor?
Oh.
He's hitting the record.
He was on the roll.
Okay, well, I apologize. Okay. I thought it was a phone. I said, man, whose phone is it running? I'm sorry.
I thought it was a phone too, man.
I apologize. Okay.
No, I would have did this.
I cut it short. Okay. All right. With that being said, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I just thought you were overriding it.
Oh,
That's exactly what I'm like, you